everyone. John Delia here of Central Ohio Property Exchange. Today I have the opportunity to speak with the founder of TurtleWise, the app, with Kevin Walker out of Rochester, New York. So Kevin, you've launched previously South by Southwest 2016. Could you please tell us a little bit more about the project?
Yeah, TurtleWise is an online advice site. I call it the Match.com of advice sites, and really was inspired by my own personal story. I think most good new businesses are founders have some passion about it and some life story that's connected. So TurtleWise is no different. I would go back to my childhood, being raised by a 16-year-old mom without a dad in the household. He decided that he didn't want to live up to those obligations, and so the good thing was I had my grandparents and aunts and uncles and other people, extended family, very close. So I had all the love and all the direction, and we had a very Christian household. So being raised that way was great for me. But when it came to the practical things about making life decisions, I very quickly ran outside my network. Nobody in my family had ever been to college. Nobody had ever been in the military, and so while they wanted to help me, they didn't have the experience to do so. And at that time, I won't divulge my age, but I can tell you that I'm old enough to know at that time there wasn't a really robust internet to draw on. So, I was very fortunate to have people come into my life who were just taking interest in giving me some good advice. And I really do believe that changed the trajectory of where I have gotten to today in my life, and I want to help others achieve that same thing.
Okay. So, that sounds like an awesome story, Kevin. From, a single mother household, but also having a loving extended family and a lot of counterparts to help nurture you and kind of progress you forward. So as you touched on a few things, the military and kind of, I think so, corporate experience as well. Could you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, if you weren't getting the advice or being able to brainstorm with your family or your loved ones, how were you able to bounce ideas about whether or not I should join the military or the changes that were going on early in life?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that was divine intervention, really. Part of it was through formal structures like guidance counselors and things like that. But other parts of it was through informal structures, parents of other friends or people that I happen to come in contact with on school projects or on trips away and things like that. So it was really serendipity in a lot of ways, but it wasn't a very formal process in most cases. And I think that in today's times, there's still many, many people, usually recent immigrants, younger people who grew up poor like I did, who don't have access to the information they need to make some pretty critical decisions in their life. And TurtleWise is there now to help them do that.
So, Kevin, you touched on two important things. You touched on structure, both formal and informal. So I'd love to learn a little more about your transition to the digital space and a mobile application. So what really led you, if you weren't in your life as equipped with the internet, but now moving forward, you're kind of a heavy user. So what led you to start a technology company?
Yeah, that's a really good question, John. And I had a conversation with a academic who studies mentorship and coaching and advice, and his position is that the best way to do that is face-to-face, and there's no substitute for face-to-face. And quite frankly, I agree with that. But in our expanded global world that we live in today, and also the kind of the instincts and the natural habits of millennials and others, that's just not realistic for many people or even desirable. They just don't want to take the time. The person who they want to get information from may be halfway around the world. Sure. And so you have to come up with an alternative solution that may not be the 100% solution, but I think it's probably the 95% solution, which is usually pretty darn good for most people.
Wow. So that sounds very exciting. So Kevin, personally, I grew up very digitally equipped. We had an in-house computer. I remember AOL, and I remember just keeping up with all the trends and shifts. And I remember, having access to the internet in our computer room. And as a young person, I was on MySpace, building my page and hanging out, meeting all types of people on the internet. So it makes me, one, I say my generation, I'm a millennial, so I'm more comfortable with using the internet and technology to meet new people. I'd say I was very popular with my top 6 on MySpace. But I want to know a little bit more about how you're creating or how TurtleWise is facilitating an environment where, not only can the relationships be built, but, we as users can trust it and feel comfortable with relying on it as that ecosystem.
So I can fast forward from my childhood when it was kind of, I look at it as two sides of an equation. There was really only the real-time network that you could muster in your location or whoever you could call or write. And now we have, online ubiquity. You can get to anybody, anytime, anywhere online. What I think that is the downfall of that is that you don't get the customized, personalized kind of approach to communications in most of the spaces. I mean, certainly if I want to know the best hamburger in Columbus, I can go online and find that from a person over many people, and I can aggregate and just say if most people think this is the best hamburger place, it must be, and the ramifications for it being wrong is just that I have a bad meal and I go home and make a pizza.
Yeah, I'm a little frustrated.
But for something else that's much more important and meaningful in your life, the ramifications of the group think and the lack of personalization and the lack of customization to my specific place in life, may have some really detrimental outcomes. So I think that on the one hand you have your own personal network that may not have the information that you want, or it may be confidential, so you don't want to share it with that group. On the other hand, you have the open sea of the internet that doesn't have the customization or the transparency that you might want. So what TurtleWise does is solve that and act in the middle of that space and fill that gap.
Okay, so you touched on somewhat of what I'm hearing are features. So Kevin, can you get a little deeper into the personalization and that customization that TurtleWise offers? Yeah,
so let me just walk you through the flow. I mean, typically you would sign up, and then the next thing you're asked to do is fill out your profile. And I use the term Match.com intentionally because we ask people to put in a lot of personal information about themselves. But if you think about Match.com, you wouldn't just put your name in and say, okay, find me the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. You've got to put in, and on our site you have to put in things like marital status and your religion and age and where you live and how many kids you have and siblings. And we ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
Because the idea is that if you have a meaningful question where you want to ask all Republicans, for instance, if we don't know that they're Republicans, then that question won't actually benefit you as well. And the same for if you want to ask people who are married about some marital issue, it's important to know that they are coming from a place of experience. So we ask those questions. It's certainly optional if you fill it out or not, but we encourage people, the more you fill out, the more meaningful the exchange will be between the advice seeker and the advice giver.
So how does TurtleWise connect the advice seeker with the advice giver? So in terms of matching preferences and the place I'm at in life, whether I'm single or I'm married, I'm just graduating university, or if I'm getting a job or getting the next promotion, how are the advice givers kind of tailor-picked or paired with me, the advice seeker?
Right. So the advice seeker, John, would come on and ask the question, and then they get to customize who they'd like to receive advice from. So they pick what characteristics are important for them to get meaningful advice. So, for instance, if I'm asking about, I have twins, and if I'm asking about, when they get to the terrible threes, what can I do in that time frame to help dampen that? I want to talk to folks that may have twins. I want to talk to folks that may be in my same generational background, maybe someone of my same ethnicity, maybe someone who is my same academic background. So I can characterize all of those things and more on who I think my ideal advisor would be for that particular question. And then we have an algorithm in the background that searches our database and finds folks that fit those customized characteristics. And so the idea is that you should get better advice because you selected who you're getting your advice from. The other feature there is that when they're about to give me advice, they can see my profile. So they can see all the things about me that customize the advice for me as opposed to just a random general piece of advice for the world.
Definitely. So does TurtleWise place the advice in categories or buckets? Like for me, I'm a real estate guy. So I wondered, if I want to grow my venture or get, maybe business advice or, advice from another industry professional, how does the algorithm play into my, my preferences in terms of hobbies or, let's say if I'm not in real estate yet, but I'm looking to make a pivot, how do I get that right advice from TurtleWise?
Yeah, so again, you'd select what characteristics are important to you, and it really relies on how robust the profile is filled out. So we ask you very specific questions, and then there's a kind of a free text category where you get to type in other things. It asks you specifically what your hobbies are, so you could say real estate, or you could say music, or you could say whatever, and then you could put in other free text tags that get associated with you and specifically with you. And if others are searching for that kind of information, you'll be matched to them. So it's in some ways limitless because it allows you to put in the free text. We have another algorithm in the background. It matches like things. So if you say I'm into cars and someone else says I'm into automobiles, it'll match the two of you because cars and automobiles, our system recognizes that those are the
That's
same
awesome.
thing. So it's pretty robust. Machine is driving behind the scenes to make sure those matches are meaningful.
Wow. So Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about the experience at South by Southwest? That sounded like an exciting launch for you guys.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I have been to many trade shows before, not specifically IT ones, although I have been to some industry ones, and by far this was the most positive. I mean, people actually stopped and talked to you. We got many. First question was, what is TurtleWise? They like the logo, they like the name, and they wanted to know more about it. Second question was, how is this different from some other offerings that are on the internet? And when we got to the third question, we saw a lot of light bulbs going off, a lot of people shaking their heads in the direction, and then giving us advice. It was kind of interesting. We're an advice site, and they were giving us advice like, hey, this has a great application in the university space. Trying to link prospective students with current students and alumni, or this has a great application, in the corporate space, trying to connect, some high potential, high performing candidates with great opportunities to excel. It was really a very, very positive and enriching experience, and I would recommend it to anyone who's launching, or even if you're not launching, just being in that environment. A lot of cool stuff too. A lot of cool tech stuff was being launched there that we got to see too in our off time.
That's awesome. I could see it in terms of me being a university student. I went to Ohio State, and we have almost every year about 50,000 students attend the university. And, in my department, if I could have been, I think LinkedIn started the wave, but, it's a lot more formal. But if I could be able to, through my university-wide app, reach out to different alumni or people within my profession to get career advice or internship advice, that sounds like it'd be an awesome feature. That sounds really wonderful.
Yeah, we found that it has a lot of traction, and we actually are working in that channel today. We're kind of doing a C2C where we're trying to get through social hacking on the internet and other places to get people to kind of join up as a one-off and enjoy the community that we built. But we also are focused on just that sector, the university sector, trying to promote the tool as a opportunity for them to take what is already existing in most cases. Maybe there's mentor programs and there's cohorts that are trying to connect and communicate with each other. They're using things that are available today. This would just take that to the next level. I think make it more personalized and more meaningful. So we're getting a lot of traction in that space.
Okay. So how do you begin to make the advice more valuable and more meaningful as more users adopt and more participants begin to use the platform? How can I begin to kind of, have higher standards of, advice and certain levels of credibility?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is the motivation on why people are there. And I think that's a unique thing with TurtleWise too. And it's, we spend a lot of time thinking about making sure that people are there because they want to pay it forward, that they have altruistic reasons at the forefront. There's other sites you could go to if you're trying to make money. There's probably other sites you could go to if your whole goal is to have an online presence that can promote your own status. But we're really looking for folks that recognize that there's uneven information in the world and that they have learned some things over their lifetime and that they'd love to share with others in a way to give back. Sort of it takes a village concept. And so starting off with that motivation, if folks are coming from that place, then you get just a much better investment in your success and the outcome of the question that you're asking. It kind of transcends just an informational kind of session, or transcends something that people are trying to be entertained about, and they really are invested in your success and you being a better person and having a better life. And that's kind of our tagline, better life through better decisions. So we cultivate that. We're serious about that. We spend a lot of time making sure folks are invested in that. And that by itself, if nothing else changed, you're going to get better advice because people really are interested.
That sounds awesome, Kevin. Hey, to take a little further and almost step back, could you tell us about the name TurtleWise? Wise, I find wisdom and, learning, but could you tell us a little about the name?
Yeah, it's all those things you just said. I mean, if you think about what graft that turtles have, I mean, they live for a long time. They're not very threatening to other animals. They're just kind of, going along. And actually, in some other cultures, like in Ghana and other places, the turtle is, in Hawaii, the turtle is associated with wisdom and some sort of spiritual nature. So it's all kind of wrapped up in there. And I think around the world, not just in the U.S., the turtle has that kind of reputation. So it just seemed to be a good fit to put TurtleWise together and what we're trying to accomplish.
Wow. No, that sounds really awesome. And I love the concept. I love the name. The logo looks great. And even the platform and as well as the app. So I'm really excited. So where are you guys now and where are you looking to go in the next 24 months?
Yeah, well, that's what we're focused on, trying to move to the next step. And the next step for us is being more responsive to our current users and future users, getting people more engaged. We want the next user to be more engaged than the previous user. Having folks really buy into what our mission, giving back and making others' lives better through our own experiences. We're focused on the vertical of universities, trying to make sure that we can have an offering and be responsive to the needs. And again, we're having great success there so far. We've got about 6 or 7 universities that are already just about on board. We're just doing the final contract negotiations on that. So that's great for companies just started and pivoting to that space.
That's awesome.
We had a fundraising effort. We looked at the crowdfunding for a while and regulated crowdfunding that was related to the recently approved Jobs Act. We're hoping that we can bring that across the finish line. But there's as an entrepreneur, you're always torn between getting investors versus being able to go on your own and not have to worry about the other people pulling you away from your core mission and having to answer to a whole lot of other folks who may have a different interest. So we'll continue to explore what's the right way to be financed in those 24 months. But we believe that we have a product that is unique in the space. It can help people and has unbelievable applications across many sectors.
That sounds great. So, Kevin, where can our listeners find out more information and participate if they're interested in learning more about TurtleWise?
Yeah, I would encourage them to go to TurtleWise.net. We have an informational page there, and it'll tell you hopefully everything I just said. And then you'll get an opportunity to join by just clicking on our Get Started button and signing up and start asking questions and giving advice. I mean, that's really the core of what we do, and there's a lot of folks out there that need help. And if you're willing to do that, you get many rewards in many different ways in life. My experience tells me that old adage, is it better to give than received? I would say both is the answer to that question. If you really need some help and you get it in a meaningful, timely way, there's nothing better. On the other hand, if you're providing that to someone, you just get quite a charge out of seeing someone else benefit from your experiences and your willingness to share. So I don't know which one's better. It depends on what stage of life. I think they're both pretty darn good. I really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat today. It's really important to keep all these things out in the open, and we should be talking about what you're doing too to make sure that you can get some exposure as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to participate in TurtleWise and, just having that tailored advice. So, as a user, can I both give and receive advice, or is it a one-way street? You mentioned at South by Southwest receiving a lot of great user feedback.
Yeah, no, we encourage and want people to do both. I mean, my life adage is that at the same time that I've been giving advice, I've been receiving advice, and we all should be willing to share our information, and we all should understand that we're lifelong learners, and so the idea is to be both giving and receiving advice. And I've sat on many boards in my career and my executive experience, and I'm giving advice, but at the same time, I'm learning from other millennials how to create a startup that's going to be successful. So we really do encourage folks to play both roles.
That's awesome. Okay, thanks a lot, Kevin. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you.